Hello friends, welcome to our new Let's Know series of sessions or videos which we'll be making on different topics starting with what, why, when, where, who, how. So let's know all these things when it comes to the different topics of the earth. It can be scientific facts or it can be a geographical facts, these kind of things. So this attempt is basically to let you know what is acid rain. For example, why is it, when is it, where is it, who is responsible, how it happens. So every topic that we will be choosing, it will be answering different other questions like this. So the first in the series is on acid rain. Acid rain or acid deposition is a broad term that includes any form of precipitation with acidic components such as sulfuric or nitric acid that fall onto the ground from the atmosphere in wet or dry forms. This can include rain, snow, fog, hail, or even dust that is acidic. Now let's see what causes this acid rain. Now there is an important pathway for acid rain is in different forms. So we divide it into four types. And the first one is emissions of SO2 and NOx. NOx in the combination, it can be NO2, it can be N2O or NO2, N2O3 or NO3, these sort of things. So we normally call them as NOx, or released into the air, where number two, the pollutants are transferred or transformed into acid particles that may be transported to long distances. Then third, these acid particles basically fall onto the earth as wet and dry deposition in the form of dust, rain, snow, etc. And four, as a result, this may cause harmful effects on soil, forests, streams, etc. Now, with this background, let's see the SO2 and NOx, how they react with water, oxygen, and other chemicals to form sulfuric acid and nitric acids. So these mix with water and other materials before falling onto the ground. While a small portion of the SO2 and SOx that cause acid rain is from natural sources such as volcanoes, most of it come from the burning of fossil fuels. That's the thing. And the major sources of SO2 and NOx in the atmosphere are burning of fossil fuels to generate electricity, where 2/3 of SO2 and 1/4 of NOx in the atmosphere come from electric power stations, electric power generating stations. Then vehicles and heavy equipment also form a part, and manufacturing, oil refineries, and other industries. Now, winds can blow SO2 and NOx over long distances and across borders, making acid rain a problem for everyone, and not just those who live close to these sources. Let's see the forms of acid deposition. We have wet deposition and dry deposition. Wet deposition is what we most commonly think of as acid rain. The sulfuric acid, nitric acids formed in the atmosphere fall into the ground with rain, snow, fog, or hail. Then we have the dry deposition, where acidic particles and gases can also deposit from the atmosphere in the absence of moisture as dry deposition. Now, the acidic particles and gases may deposit on surfaces like water bodies, vegetation, buildings quickly, or may react during atmospheric transport to form larger particles that can be harmful to human health. When the accumulated acids are washed off a surface by the next rain, this acidic water flows over and through the ground and can harm plants and wildlife, such as insects and fish. The amount of acidity in the atmosphere that deposits to earth through dry deposition depends on the amount of rainfall in area it receives. For example, if you see in desert areas, the ratio of dry to wet deposition is higher than the area that receives several inches of rain each year. Now let's see, how do we measure this acid rain? We measure it in terms of the pH scale that we are seeing here. So 0 to 7 is neutral, and then anything we go less than 7 go towards acidic, and anything more than 7 up to 14 we normally call it as alkaline. So examples here we have pH 0 is battery acid, pH 2 is lemon juice, we have pH 2, soda pH 2.5, acid rain is 4.3, 5.6 is clean rain, and pH 7 is distilled water, purely neutral. So 7.4 we have blood, alkaline, slightly alkaline, above 7. And then 8.1 we have seawater, pH 9 is baking soda, pH 11 is ammonia, 12.6 is bleach, and then pH 14 is liquid drain cleaner, highly alkaline system. Now here, acidity and alkalinity are measured using pH scale for which 7.0 is neutral. The lower the substance pH, the more acidic it is. The higher a substance pH, the more alkaline it is. That's exactly what we are seeing here. Normal rain has a pH of about 5.6. It is slightly acidic because the carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide dissolves into it, forming weak carbonic acid. So acid rain usually has a pH between 4.2 to 4.4. That's how we normally measure the acid rain on the pH scale. Then if you see the effects of acid rain on ecosystem, we will clearly see this as the key microorganisms who may lose their lives as the environment becomes more acidic. Not all fish, shellfish, or insects that may eat can tolerate the same amount of acid. An ecosystem is commonly it is basically the community of plants, animals, and other organisms along with their environment, including the air, water, and soil. Everything in an ecosystem is connected. If something harm one part of an ecosystem, then one species of plant or animal or soil or the water, it can have an impact on everything else, thereby affecting the entire ecosystem. Let's see the effects of acid rain on fish and wildlife. The ecological effects of acid rain are most clearly seen in aquatic environment, such as streams, lakes, and marshes, where it can be harmful to fish and other wildlife. As it flows through the soil, acid rainwater can leach aluminum and soil clay particles and then flow into streams and lakes. The more acid that it is introduced into the system, the more aluminum is released. Some types of plants and animals are able to tolerate acidic waters and moderate amounts of aluminum. Others are acidic sensitive and will be lost as the pH declines. Generally, the young of most species are more sensitive to environmental conditions than adults. At pH is equal to 5, most fish eggs cannot hatch. At lower pH levels, some adult fish die. Some acidic lakes have no fish. Even if species or fish or animal can tolerate moderately acid water, the animals or plants it eats might not. For example, frogs have a critical pH value of 4, but the mayflies, which we normally call, which the frogs eat, are more sensitive and may not survive pH below 5.5. That is detrimental to the frogs. Now, if the acid rain effect on the plants and trees, if you see, dead or dying trees are a common sight in the areas affected by acid rain. Acid rain leaches aluminum from the soil. That aluminum may be harmful to plants as well as animals. Acid rain also removes minerals and nutrients from the soil that trees need to grow. At high elevations, acidic fog and clouds might strip nutrients from trees' foliage, leaving them with brown or dead leaves and needles. The trees are then less able to absorb sunlight, which makes them weak and less able to withstand freezing temperatures. For this, we also understand the buffering capacity, as many forests, streams, and lakes that experience acid rain don't suffer effects because the soil in those areas can buffer the acid rain by neutralizing the acidity in the rainwater flowing through it. This capacity depends on the thickness and composition of the soil and the type of bedrock underneath it. In areas such as mountainous parts where the soil is thin and lacks the ability to adequately neutralize the acid in the rainwater. As a result, these areas are particularly vulnerable and the acid and aluminum can accumulate in the soil, streams and lakes. So another thing what we need to understand is episodic acidification. Melting snow and heavy rain downpours can result in what is known as episodic acidification. Lakes that do not normally have a high level of acidity may temporarily experience effects of acid rain when melting snow or downpour brings greater amount of acidic deposition and the soil can't buffer it. This short duration of higher acidity, because lower pH, can result in a short-term stress on the ecosystem where a variety of organisms or species may be injured or killed. Then we also have nitrogen pollution, which we need to understand. It is not just the acidity of the acid rain that can cause problems. Acid rain also contains nitrogen, and this can have an impact on some ecosystems. If you see, for example, nitrogen pollution in our coastal waters is partially responsible for declining fish and shellfish population in some areas. In addition to agriculture and wastewater, much of the nitrogen produced by human activity that reaches coastal waters comes from the atmosphere. Now, what are the effects of this acid rain on materials? If you see, not all acidic deposition is wet. Sometimes the dust particles can become acidic as well in the form of dry deposition. When acid rain and dry acid particles fall to the earth, the nitric and sulfuric acid that make the particles acid can land on statues, human or animals, buildings, and other man-made structures and damage their surfaces. The acidic particles corrode metal and cause paint and stone to deteriorate more quickly. They also dirty the surfaces of buildings and other structures, such as monuments like Taj Mahal. The consequences of this damage can be costly. Damaged materials that need to be repaired or replaced, increased maintenance costs, and loss of detail on stone and metal statues, on monuments and tombstones. So the effects of SO2 and an NOx, if you see, the visibility in the atmosphere is a major factor, as these gases can be transformed into sulfate and nitrate particles, while NOx can also react with other pollutants from ozone. So these particles and ozone make the air hazy and difficult to see through. This affects our enjoyment of national parks that we visit for the scenic view. Then we also have the difference of human health. Then walking in acid rain or even swimming in a lake affected by acid rain is no more dangerous to human than walking in normal rain or swimming in non-acidic lakes. However, when the pollutants that cause acid rain, SO2 and NOx, as well as sulfate and nitrate particles are in the air, they can be harmful to humans. SO2 and NOx react in the atmosphere to form fine sulfates and nitrate particles that people can inhale into their lungs. Many scientific studies have shown a relationship between these particles and effects on heart function, such as heart attacks, resulting in death of people and increased heart disease risk, and effects on lung function, such as breathing difficulties for people with asthma. So these are all the different answers for the questions of what, why, how, why, who, how sort of thing when it comes to the acid rain. So that's for today, what we have learned about all the things that we have learned about acid rain in this quick video. So thank you very much. Keep watching for more related video in our new Let's Know series. Thank you very much.